Welcome back to Crushing It, everyone. The Denver Broncos were strangled to death by themselves and the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday, taking a 13-6 loss to drop them to 0-2 on the year. As cautiously optimistic as I was going into the year, I for one did not expect the Orange and Blue Brigade to flop down on the floor like this to start the year. We are 2 weeks in, and the offense is struggling immensely. I guess it's what I get for snorting the preseason hopium, and I will now be found on the corner smoking that sweet, sweet copium after another dismal performance. Now, if you're looking for a place to get through what looks to be another rough season for the Broncos, why don't you subscribe? Hit the bell while you're at it. I'm a working dude trying to have, some fun on the side. Now back to the video. The scoring was opened in the late first by way of a Justin Fields touchdown throw, the first and only touchdown of the Steelers' young season to move the game to 7-0. Pittsburgh would pad their lead with 2 field goals that came in the second and third quarters to make it 13-0. Nix and the Broncos would get the ball moving off of a huge trick play to Josh Reynolds before hurling a pick to Corey Trice, and that led to that third quarter field goal for the Steelers. Denver would get 2 field goals on the board late in the game, but that would be it as they fell 13-6. Now, it would be fun to just dive into the elephant in the room and address the offense, but I want to look at what went right for the Broncos first before I tear them a new one. The defense, even if it did a lot of bending and looked a little shaky at times, they held up their end of the bargain. Your team should be able to win if you as a unit only allow 13 points. Justin Fields was held to 117 yards passing and 27 yards rushing. The rush defense looked less than ideal again, giving up 4.45 yards per carry to the Steelers' top backs. Najee went for 69 yards on 17 carries, while Warren was able to hit 42 yards on just 9 carries. It wasn't the best effort, it wasn't perfect, though I'm certain that losing JFM didn't help a single bit. Again, despite the less than stellar, less than perfect performance from the unit, they kept the Broncos in the game through all 60 minutes. They made key stops when they had to, held the passing game, and they held them in check, and they navigated around some PI calls on Surtain and Moss, and they held their own. Credit where credit is due. Now, the offense has looked outright atrocious, and that was amplified against the Steelers. Bo Nix currently leads the Broncos with rushing with 60 yards. Javonte Williams has been a husk of even his post-injury form, though he is getting no help from the offensive line. If you remove Nix's rushing numbers, the Broncos' backs are averaging just 2.9 yards per attempt. Nix's stats at 9 carries for 60 yards have added more than half a yard to their rushing average. He's getting absolutely no help from the rushing game, and our very expensive, may I add, offensive line isn't doing jack shit to open holes for anyone. It's bad execution all around, and that drives me to the point of this video. The Denver Broncos cannot get out of their own goddamn way. If there's something that springs open downfield, Nix is under pressure. If he makes a good throw, there's a decent chance it's dropped. If there's a good run or enough time in the pocket, there's a hold or some other penalty. There is no sense of rhythm to the offense and a lack of execution and support. And Nix is making some very rookie mistakes. I'm more willing to be patient with Nix, as I thought he had an okay second half minus the turnovers. And that's another thing. Turnovers have murdered the Broncos early in the season, and Bo Nix has thrown some bad red zone picks in these first 2 games. Now, the optimist in me wants to think that these issues can get coached out of the team. Maybe there's some chemistry issues, some timing issues, and some bad habits that maybe Nix can shake out. The question is, though, is how long will that take, if possible? I think this is a very young team trying to get their feet under them still, and I saw that as something that perhaps the preseason might have did for the team, getting those jitters out. Hence my thought that they could go 9-8. Right now, the offense has some serious issues that come down to coaching and execution. Sean Payton has to get something going. The O-line coaches need to figure out what's going wrong there, and the receivers need to hang on to stuff. There's still time to save the season, and if the defense can sort of hold this bend but don't break thing, keep the points low enough, and figure out what went wrong against the Steelers, I think that the offense can eventually catch up. The question is how long will that take still? No idea, but if the team in that locker room want to turn things around, they need to get it figured out quick. September is already halfway over, and I think a 1-3 or 0-4 start after the same thing last year is going to be awful for team morale. Time is going to tell if Sean Payton can figure out how to right this ship. A few things I noticed, a few more things. Surtain didn't look great. Pickens' numbers were low at 2 catches for 29 yards, but he should have had more of both if it weren't for Steelers penalties. He was kind of getting cooked out there on the DL. I think Nix needs to play a bit more freely. It seemed that Peyton let him go and do his thing in the second half. And despite the turnovers, I think he looked like a real quarterback, albeit not a very good one. I think to really get his development rolling, you have to let him take those chances and learn from his mistakes. Coddling him with these little dink and dump off passes isn't going to do anything for him. I could see that happening against Tampa, going in that direction, and especially after this 2-2 start. I think you got to start letting Nix actually run this offense to a degree that, he's going to make mistakes. He's a rookie. That is almost guaranteed, and none of the other rookies look great right now. Caleb Williams hasn't looked great. Jaden Daniels hasn't done anything super noteworthy. They did beat the Giants without scoring an offensive touchdown. But, you got to let the guy play. You got to let him go out, take his lumps. It's going to happen. You got to let it happen. Now, do I think the Broncos have a chance in Tampa Bay? Not playing like this. McGlinchey is going to be out for a month with an MCL sprain, while Skinner, Browning, and JFM got banged up in week 2. If they want to win, they got to figure out how to run the goddamn ball. Hopefully playing a middle-of-the-pack Buccaneers run defense can help Denver figure some things out in that regard. But if the Steelers run, or the Seahawks run D can stifle them, then Tampa can too. Bo Nix also needs to start making better decisions, and again, I think that should come with time. He's looked like a rookie for damn sure, but that's what he is. He's a rookie. He's going to struggle, and that's been seen up to this point. And from here on out, I hope to see continued growth from him in particular, but the team as a whole as well. Now, that's been my take on the Broncos after their Week 2 loss. I'll have a preview episode up for the Bucs game later this week. Subscribe if you enjoyed, and take care, everyone. Keep crushing it, Broncos country. There is no let's ride.